Hello, everybody, and welcome to our monthly Q&A on social media management, or all things social media. And you may notice this time that I'm not joined by Ravi. I am joined by Erinn Dhesi today, who is the social media and content manager for Agorapulse UK and Ireland, which is amazing. It's amazing to have her here. And it just means that you're going to get some fresh advice and some fresh tips from somebody new. And we are really excited to have you here, Erinn. So Erinn, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about you and why you're excited about joining us today?
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you so much. I'm so #honored. I've put hashtag in there already. I don't care. So I am the social media manager and content manager for Agorapulse UK and Ireland. So obviously people know what Agorapulse is. We're a social media management tool. So before this, though, I worked in a variety of places. I worked in agency. I worked with public sector clients. Worked in university sector and housing associations, all doing social media. And one of the things I specialize in is community management. That's kind of my go-to within social media management generally. But I'm really excited today to kind of share my tips and tricks on how to effectively manage your social media channels, because social media is super duper reactive as a job, but like I think, and kind of stressful because of that, how reactive it is. But there are so many things you can do to put in place to make it more manageable for you every day, really.
Great. And we're going to be able to find out from you, Erinn, what it is that you do to make sure you're managing social media effectively. So thanks everybody for tuning in today. We are live actually for the first time on our LinkedIn page. So normally it's on my LinkedIn profile. So that's really exciting. So there's two firsts today. We've got Erinn here and we're streaming live from our LinkedIn page. We're also in the Facebook community group, Hi Everyone, and on our Facebook page as well. We do record this session and add it to the website so you can watch it back later. But what we want you to do is open up to us, ask your questions, and Erinn and I will be more than happy to answer them. But I want to start off by asking you a question, Erinn, around how to effectively manage your social media channels, of course. And my first question is, how do you effectively manage your social media channel? So is there a secret? Is there some kind of secret to it? Because I know it's so overwhelming, isn't it, when you have a lot of content to create and to make sure that you're putting it out on the right channels and that kind of thing. So how, like, what's the secret? What's the trick?
The secret is to plan. I know no one wants to hear it, but you have to plan. As much as, like I was saying, it is reactive, a lot of the stuff has to go in before it all goes live. So when it comes to reacting to stuff, it's so much smoother than it actually is. So when it comes to planning, I would say there are three things you've really just got to plan. You've got to plan your content, you've got to plan your processes, and then you've got to plan the way that you react to things. So I'll go into a couple of them now, if you like. So obviously with content, it's very clear that like you need to figure out what content is going to go where for per channel. And, obviously that involves, scheduling everything, understanding how you're going to repurpose your content from place to place. We've talked about repurposing before, and understanding that, okay, these are the days that I'm going to be having this and this kind of content. And that should, when the day-to-day stuff comes in, be ticking along in the background. So you don't have to, panic, oh my God, what am I going to post tomorrow? There's like nothing in the calendar. I know that like when working in different organizations, especially if you're as a social media manager, you're like the you're first one to sort of know everything, but also the last one to make it all public. And when you've got like competing interests within an organization, it's hard. I hear this so many times. It's like, how many times should I plan in advance my content? It's like, well, I know you read blogs and they say, oh, a month, 2 weeks, blah blah blah, but like actually think about how the system in your organization or between your teams works. If you only get if you know that there's a department in your organization that only loves to get you things a week in advance, then your content plan is going to have to be planned in a week or in 2 weeks or a month. Like, for example, I remember I had a communications manager who wanted to overview a month's worth of content, like in the calendar. And I had to say to them quite plainly, you do realize the way that we work here is that a month is a month. I can't fill a month. Like, I can't tell you like week 4 that we can have this and this, because you know that department likes to give us this. So it's like being realistic in how you want to plan things for yourself and making it easier for you. Don't just do 4 weeks because it's some blog tells you to do 4 weeks. Do what works for you. And then away from the kind of content planning, which is kind of the first thing to do, kind of, I think a lot of people know how to plan content, is planning your processes. The processes are so important especially when you're with a larger team, in that, you know, when you've got if you know where you want to write your content. So say you're going to have Airtable, for example, another tool to kind of like schedule, like kind of put out the topics that you want to put out for the month. And then you get the person, you know, that the comms manager has to check it on Airtable, and then it goes to another place, and then it goes to another place. You have to get those processes in place so when it comes to the busy periods, everyone knows what everything is and everyone is very clear on where they have to be. And then within those processes as well, it's about being clear who's going to sign stuff off. Like, I think some of the biggest headaches I've had in working in social media is like people who are not clear on who gets the final say. If it's the head of marketing is going to have a competing view with the comms manager, they need to sort that out. Like, you need to be clear in your team and say, okay, who has final say on copy, who's going to have final say on images, and what is the cutoff point? Obviously, you know, someone says to you, we've got to get out a tweet in half an hour, and if you've got to do it, the world will end. Like, yeah, fine, but who's got the final say on that world-ending tweet? Be clear on that. And then obviously when it comes to the reacting side of things, it's about, we can go into more of the detail, but like, once the stuff is out there, you're going to get replies, you're going to get comments, you're going to get complaints, all those kinds of different audience interaction. There are so many different ways that you can actually plan how to filter through those. So when it comes to the community management side of the social media channels, that in itself is not a stress headache. That's not something you're wasting 2 hours on in a day, because you've got, you know, your process in place and your sort of like saved replies and, you know, your escalation plans in place, so that when things go bit weird, it's not going to affect the way that you're managing your stuff day to day. So that's the kind of overview I would say.
Wow, so that's a lot of information. And of course, here we have people watching who are really senior within marketing or in social media. And then we have people who are just starting out as well. So, and we have small businesses and large businesses. So everybody's at a different kind of point. But I guess the thing that gels all of this together, what you're saying is that planning is the most important thing, whether you're a small business, a big team, a small team, just planning and having processes in place. Erinn, what do some of those processes look like? So say you've got a social media plan, and we did talk about this in an episode before, how to create a social media plan and that kind of thing. And we did talk a little bit about processes, but it would be great to hear from you, Erinn, about like what kind of processes you would put in place. Say that you've been doing social media management for a while, or you've been running social media for your company for a while, and you need now to organize things. You need to put those, you know, those processes into place. Where would you start if you've never done it before? Or if you've been doing this for a while and you need to start putting processes in place because it's all getting a bit too much, what would you do?
So what I found is when it comes to when I've gone into new places and it's like day one and you come in to realize how they organize their sort of time, that's the big thing. So like, if you know that when it comes to maybe your content, you've got evergreen stuff and you've got like timely stuff. The first thing I did in one place was bring in the different heads of department or the different comms contacts at each department, bring them and say, we're going to have a monthly meeting every month and you're going to tell me what you want out in the calendar for that next month. So it's like, if you're in a bigger organization, it's about connecting to the right people and understanding their flow of working. If you're in a smaller team, it's like, okay, or you're like a one-man band, it's organizing it within yourself. So if you say to yourself, that day of the month or that day of the week, it's going to be content writing, and I'm going to be just writing all the content for the week, then that day is going to be scheduling it all in. And then that day is going to be, or that hour of the day is going to be monitoring. So it's like carving up your time to dedicating to different bits and pieces of your social media sort of like week or journey. And then it also comes down to like the organizational tools you can put in place. Obviously, you can do all the meetings that you want to have with people, and you can do all the solo stuff of writing it, but making sure that everyone is trained up on where you're going to organize everything. So say if you're going to use monday.com or Asana, what I've noticed is that getting people on board and getting the training for these tools and getting people used to these tools is half the battle when it comes to processes. And it's like, I remember at one point, there was one place I worked at, they were doing everything in an Excel spreadsheet, like all of it, like content, checking things. And it's like, and you'd have to go in and the person had to get out the thing because it was read only. And it just doesn't work when you've got social media or like a tweet that needs to go out or posts that need to go out because something urgent's happened. Things like, Monday and Asana, you can assign stuff to people, you can add comments, it's timestamped, so there's accountability there. So, I mean, really, the process is you have to think about the digital tools in place. Obviously, everyone's working more remotely now than ever, to make sure the flow of things is easier. That keeps people accountable. That keeps everybody in the loop. Everyone can see everything, and the flow of conversation and the notes that people give to each other is sort of there. So, yeah, I would think about what the digital tools that you can put in place, and what you can do to how you can carve up your time once the things are there in place on the digital side to get those things going. But that takes a lot of time, and it really differs between different types of teams and different people, and finding a happy medium about what works for you. Some people be like, I just want to put it all in my Google Sheets and that's it. And that's fine. But then you've got to think about other people who are involved with you and like access and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so those tools and processes are really, really important, aren't they? Because especially if it's just not you working on your own, you're working with other people, and there's various stakeholders and people to sign content off. So it's really important. We do have a list of the tools on one of the blog posts on Digital Women that I think Ravi was talking about before as well. So it's well worth having a look at those. And of course, Agora Pulse, which is great. We have a couple of questions coming through. But first of all, Catch Designs, that's Sue, I believe. I know it's Sue. I don't know why I said I believe that. Sue, hi. Monday is my writing day. Never have meetings or anything that day. That's great, actually, because it's a great way to just block out certain days to do certain things, isn't it?
Yes, Friday is my content writing day because I feel like for me, Tuesday to Thursday is meetings, and like I can't be scheduling in polls and stuff like that like consistently between those days. And Friday is definitely my writing content day, and Monday is the day where I sort of like, oh my god, okay, no meetings on a Monday, I need to figure out what's going on with this week and happening like that. So yeah, they prove that having a writing day and what's hard is that, like, especially if you're, I don't know, like, for some, I find in social media, there's a lot of neurodivergent people working in social media. I've noticed this a lot. And you need to give your brain the time to relax, to write the content. And if you've got like 6 meetings in the morning and your brain is fried, the creativity is not going to flow with you. So having that day just to chill, nick some other content from people that you like. Well, not nick, repurpose, you know what I mean? Like,
there was inspiration.
Yeah, inspiration. See what everyone else is doing, and then adjusting that, and then doing little bits and pieces with your images and stuff. To have a day to do that, if you can, half a day to put that time away. So yeah, prove.
Yeah, that's really good advice, actually, Erinn. You don't need to reinvent the wheel most of the time. If there's content that you see that you like that's actually working really well for an audience that you're going after, you're not copying them, you're just getting a bit of inspo, and that's fine. It's okay to get inspiration from other people, and I'm sure a lot of social media managers watching will have a million screenshots on their iPhone, because that's what I do. If I'm looking at Instagram, I'm like, yeah, love that, and then my phone is just full of just content that I think is really good that I can send to our social media manager and that kind of thing, which probably pees them off or whatever, but it's good to have inspiration. So yeah, that's really, really good, really good tip. We actually have a question here as well from Emma Boast. Hi Emma, good to see you here. So she's saying, tips for a small one-person business. How do I, as an individual, utilize social media effectively to promote my unique handmade items better on social media? Unique items better on social media and reach more audiences? Great question, Emma. Go for it, Erinn.
So obviously it depends obviously what the unique handmade items are. Obviously it's like that is delving into the realm of e-commerce. I would say when it comes to, if, well, obviously, you know, they are unique, but they must be probably on a same sort of like in the same sort of, you know, there must be other people doing those kind of one-off things. So I would find ways, obviously, you know, get the e-commerce app that you want to sell these items on, get that down. And then it comes to sort of, as we mentioned before, repurposing what you put on your e-commerce app onto the social media channels. For example, a good example of this is the sellers on Depop. They are very, very good at using different channels to actually, for different purposes, into like selling that product. So there is one person called Redancy. I'm going to shout out Redancy. She does these mesh items, right? Mesh outfits, because mesh is so in right now. So she sells on Depop. And then her Instagram, which, so it is just the items as in and of itself. And the Instagram is a complete mix of showcasing the items. So not only do they have models on there doing other stuff, she models it herself. She does behind the scenes stuff of her making the things. She has a link tree, so she has a link in bio where it breaks down her website, her Depop, and other ways that you can buy her products. And then obviously takes use of the e-commerce aspects that are coming into Instagram now, so you can buy through her as well. But she doesn't do everything, she does certain things. So it's like, think about how that way that one item can be repurposed. As in, how do you want to show off someone actually using the item? How do you want to show that how you've made the item? How do you want to show it, the item in use, so in someone's home or something like that? So it's like really breaking down the ways that you would want to show that off in the ways that it's from start to finish, how it's been done. So your concept design, you making it, someone trying it, someone having bought it, the reviews and stuff like that. So it's just breaking down those kinds of things. But, you know, if they want to hit me up and ask me, send me their Instagram or something like that, I'll happily give them some tips. But it's definitely about understanding which social media channel works the best. Twitter is not e-commerce. Twitter is not going to like really help you sell unique items. You want something image based. So something like Instagram would be the best place to do it.
Absolutely. Instagram is actually amazing, isn't it, for e-commerce? There's so many different ways that you can sell your products now. And if you've got Commerce Manager set up and your Instagram shop set up, then you're away, because it's absolutely fantastic, especially if you're connected with something like Shopify as well, because it just makes it seamless integration. So yeah, really, really great answer, Erinn. Thank you so much. And I hope that was helpful to you as well, Emma. Yeah, it's Emma. So we have some more questions as well. I've got a question here from Kate, who is asking, how extensively do you tailor content between platforms to cater for potentially different audiences? Is it more important to keep the tone of voice consistent across the brand or appeal to audiences per platform?
Absolutely keep tone consistent between every channel that you have. Brand is brand. I'm sure no one says that, but I'm saying that now. Brand is brand. So you have to stick to the same wording, the same color schemes, everything like that. So when people, because if you think about the way you find a brand, you go through everything. Like I would go from the Twitter to the Instagram just to see, and I would follow them on everything because I've got different social media channels. If I really like the brand, I will keep up to date with them on different, you know, platforms. So when it comes to me seeing, so when I go from platform to platform, and I see that color scheme or I see that wording, I know that's them. So you want to keep that, definitely keep that consistent. Catering though, you will have to cater them to different platforms. There will be some sort of difference because each of the mediums are different. So for example, for what I do, so we have Agorapulse, not only a social media management tool, but we offer blogs on how to, you know, do different types of things in social media. So for example, we had a blog about, what do we have a blog about? We had a blog about assigning stuff to different people. Let me check. So how to set up social media approval processes without losing your mind using Agorapulse. That started life out as a blog. And then it came to, obviously, but you can't just post a blog up onto Instagram. So what we did is that we got 3 to 4 tips from that blog and turned it into an Instagram carousel. So that was the same piece of content used for Instagram. And then when it came to Twitter, we did a Twitter thread breaking down the tips on how to set up an approval process with Agorapulse from that blog. And then in the Instagram stories, we shared the actual post, the carousel on Instagram, and then we did a swipe up, which is not what they've got rid of now, but like to to get them to go to the blog. So it's like, you know, just understanding what you don't have to. So you've got one piece of content, you don't have to take everything from it and take the whole thing. You can just pick out the pieces that work for the medium at hand. Instagram is always going to be visual. So, you know, you want to take the most grabby stuff, but then with Twitter, people now have more time and more patience to read long things. So if you want to break down more tips and go in depth, then that's the place to do it. So you just have to really have a think about what strengths of that piece of content work for different places. It doesn't mean you have to like abandon it, but there's always bits and pieces that you can try and repurpose.
Sorry, thank you, Erinn. That again, really good tips. And Kate, I hope that was helpful. Let us know if you have any feedback. And Emma's just saying, great, thanks so much about the tips you just gave a minute ago. So thank you, Emma, for asking. And if anybody else has any questions, feel free to ask. And I know it's quite hard to stay at these things live the whole time. So afterwards, if you have any questions, we'll just tag Erinn in and she can answer them for you as well. But I have a question. So Erinn, how do you manage all of the creative that you get? So how do you manage the creative? Where do you put it? What do you do with it? And how do you make sure that it's going out at the right times?
Oh my gosh. So it's definitely a challenge, even for me, even though I am a social media manager. I'm like, some weeks I'm like, oh my God, where is this all coming from? So really it's very much like, so I'm kind of at the moment, you know, I do the sort of like bare bones, the carousels and stuff like that, like those kind of like meaty, like basic things you would come with social media. So I put it into when I'm having like my brain release of a content idea. So what I do, I have a sticky notes on my my desktop, and I write down everything I come across on social media. I write down there. So if it comes to me quite immediately, so like poll ideas, question ideas, I do that like consistently through the week. So when it comes to Friday, I go back and check, okay, those are my raw ideas, time to make them into actual content. So then I open a Google Sheets because spelling is important, grammar, I need to get my grammar correct. So I write down all the tech stuff that I need to do in the Google Sheet. And I'm technically a one-man band anyway. So like there's no other approval process. I approve everything, so it's fine. So I write it down all in the Google Sheets, all the copy. And then the images, we have a design team. So I put in my request to my design team to say, this is the carousel, do like this, and this, and I expect it from a certain date. And then it goes from when I get those back to me, I schedule it all into Agorapulse, and I have a queuing system. So the queue in Agorapulse means that you can block out times and days for certain bits of content. So I have queuing systems for Agorapulse blogs, so relevant social media news, our YouTube videos, relatable content, things like that. So when it comes to the Friday and I'm scheduling everything in, it just goes into the specific times and places that I'd already set for the month. So I don't have to be like, okay, this one's going to be at 1 p.m. and this one's going to be at 1:30, like going through bits and bits, because the queue just does that for me. And then I'm like, done. And like, that is it for the week, or for like 2 weeks or so. So it's very much like going from, I have a place for raw ideas. When it comes to refining them, I go to my Google Sheets and type everything up. And then I send off what I need to send off to the relevant teams to design it. If they need to design something, sometimes they don't. Sometimes I source my own stock images and things like that. And then when I get my assets back, I just schedule everything in and then try to have a decent sleep.
Yeah, try to. Yeah. Wow. So there is a lot, obviously, as you can hear, there's a lot that goes into being a social media manager. I think some of the critical things that I heard there was like, you need to be organized. That's really important. You also need to be creative, because you're coming up with ideas for social media content. So you need to be organized and creative. Sometimes these two things don't go hand in hand. Yeah. Because it's like, for creative people, a lot of the time, sometimes you could be your mind could be messy, and you're kind of about the place, and being organized at the same time, two different things. So that's why I think it's great that you create the content on one day and then you do the organization stuff on another day, like making sure you're organizing content. I also love the idea of that you create a queue for your content. So you put the time that you're going to post in beforehand, and then you just put the content in the queues up, and that's something you can do in Agorapulse that I think is just a fantastic feature as well.
Mm.
But yeah, I have another question actually, if you don't mind. I think this could be the last question. We can round it up unless anybody has another question. So I feel like social media is changing all the time. I think we all feel like social media is changing all the time, and there's new channels opening up, and there's actually new features within existing channels. So we love Instagram, but now there's Reels and this other stuff, and then TikTok is really fast growing channel. So this kind of content, this kind of short video, and obviously shorts as well on YouTube, this short video content is what a lot of people are consuming now, and it's growing really quickly. So how do you manage all of that social media content that you already have to manage, and then things like Reels come up and they say, that you can get more views, and people love this kind of content, so you really need to start dabbling it at least, or start really going full in and creating content for these channels now. So how do you go about running all of that and managing that? And then on top of that, someone says, right, we need to do Reels. So how do you, it's like throwing it on you, is it now we need to do Reels? And you're like, right.
Do you remember that little meme of that little boy, and he's like, if you say that word again and again and again, that's how I feel about Reels. You know what I mean? The amount of times I've heard the word Reels in August.
Yeah.
So much. But to answer your question aside from my rant about Reels, is that you just watch and observe. Just because it's happening doesn't mean you have to get involved with it. I sound like a mum, but like, just because they're doing it doesn't mean you have to do it. It's like, observe what your competitors are doing and using Reels for, or using sort of a new feature on a platform for. So for example, when it came to us starting to do Reels, I knew that be frank about it, I didn't have the time to be like making short videos and then editing them and then adding like music, Charlie XCX music on them, or whatever vibey music was happening on TikTok. I didn't have time to do it. Got other things to do. So I outsourced. I mean, and I outsourcing shouldn't be a dirty word in social media. Like, if you honestly think someone else can do something for you, to brief, get them to do it if you've got the money. So we have outsourced somebody, a brilliant TikToker called Social Jazz, who is a social media manager herself, and she has been creating one reel for us a week, and we're sort of experimenting that. Even though we are a social media channel, our Instagram for the UK side is very new, so we're still in the experimental phase of like, okay, if we do this kind of content, what's this going to say for us? So I reached out to her and I was like, I saw her stuff on TikTok, because social media managers on TikTok are blowing up. They're blowing up. Like, I learned stuff from them. So like, they definitely have a niche going on there. So I saw her, she was UK based, and I was like, do you want to do some stuff for us? Should we kind of see how that goes week on week, and we can decide whether it's something we want to do permanently. So it's like, when a new feature comes in, I would say just see what your competitor's doing, see whether it works with your current work, like, flow, or like, if you've got time to it, and if you've not got time to it, but really want to get into it, outsource, find people that want to do it on your behalf, want to partner up with you, collaborate with you, because not only are you be accessing their network of people, but you've got content coming in that you don't have to do yourself, and you just got to schedule it in. That's my advice for that.
That's a really good call, and that's really, really good advice. So we're not going to see you pointing at the screen anytime soon on TikTok or anything like that, Erinn?
No. Not if I can help it, unless my manager like puts in a KPI to say you're going to get your face and do a TikTok. I'm not going to do it quite yet.
It can almost sometimes be the expectation as well for the social media manager in some companies, not in all companies. And sometimes you might get that thrown on you as a social media manager. The boss says something like, you really need you to do Reels now, or really need you to show your face. And some people might not be comfortable with that. And there are other things you can do. And like Erinn said, you can bring other people in to collaborate with and do them for you, and perhaps reach out to different people to create content for you. And sometimes that will cost. And if you have a good audience, sometimes they might just want to increase their profile, and that won't cost anything. So it depends on what kind of partnership you've got going on. Thank you, Erinn. I know I said that was the last question, but actually Katie Pearson has came through with, I think it's actually 2 questions here. So the first one is, what kind of, I know it says COIs, but I know you mean KPIs. What kinds of KPIs do you track on your channels? That's the first question. So what kinds of KPIs do you track on your channel? So what KPIs are important for a social media marketer?
It honestly, well, I mean, it depends how you define it month to month. So we, for example, it's every 3 months. So quarter by quarter, we have different KPIs. We have our sort of bigger ones. So, say we want to book in 3 influencers do stuff. And then so when it comes to the channels specifically, I look at growth. So I'm looking at follower rate week to week. Week to week is not looking super duper at week to week does not help your mental health. It really doesn't. But like overall in a month, like I'm looking at follower rate, I'm looking at engagement rate, and I'm looking at website visits. So it's those are the big three things for me at the moment to look at. And we track them week by week, so when we can look at the end of the month, we can see, oh, so there was these peaks and flows and ebbs about what was going on. But also we do, when you've got the quantitative stuff, so like the actual raw numbers, we do make sure that we have the sort of notes to go along with that. So we write down, okay, so this week we had the Euros happen, so all our football related content worked well. So you can have all the numbers there, but make sure you put in like the written notes to remind yourself, because you're not going to remember what was going on that week, but just to say this was what hit very well, and this is what wasn't. And we track that in different like sheets and things like that. And then so when we look back, it's much more easier. And I think, and obviously when I identify, the second part of her question is like, what do I identify as a good post? Depends on the medium, honestly. So like if I had a reel out, I would want a certain amount of views. So like I would say 100 views plus would be good for me that week, but then in the next month we would say more. So it's like so those whatever you define as good is definitely going to keep changing, because good in the first phase is going to be like, I want 50 likes, but then at the end of the 3 months you're still only getting 50 likes. That's not great for you if that's what you want, if you're growth orientated. So it's like constantly try and adjust what good is, but don't overestimate yourself. Don't like say I want 250 likes in a week on an organic post. What's not going to happen, is it? So like just say you want 50 and then build it up to what you want. So yeah. That's and also lead gen, and obviously how whether you want to push someone to a demo and things like that and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that helped, Katie. I thought that was really, really good advice again, as usual. Erinn, well, it's normally Ravi, but this week we have Erinn. She's obviously just as fantastic as Ravi. And you're going to be back next time as well, aren't you, Erinn? So we're here every single month. Normally it's the last Tuesday of the month, but it was Wednesday because yesterday was my birthday. So I had
happy 28th birthday to Lucy.
Thank you so much, Erinn. So yeah, we're here every single month. And we have different kind of topics lined up every month. You can watch these back on digitalwomen.live. There's a little drop down which says social media managers Q&A with Agora Pulse. You watch all of the videos and get all of your tips from there. They're absolutely free to watch. You can also become a member of Digital Women. We're closed at the moment to members, but we have training courses on there. We have training course on how to create a social media content plan, which is all CPD accredited as well. So that's great for your CV or that kind of thing. But that doesn't open, the Members Club doesn't open up again until the 6th of September. But in the meantime, I would recommend that you take the free trial, the Agora Pulse free trial, because for social media managers, we use this for literally all of our staff, all of our clients. If you look across Digital Women and Social Day, we have so much content that goes out, and we do so much across all of the different channels, and we would no way be able to do all of that if it wasn't for Agora Pulse. So yeah, absolutely awesome. Can you put the link up, Sam, for the it's social.agorapulse.com/digitalwomen. You get a free month by using that code, and it's definitely worth giving it a whirl. It's fantastic. Katie says, thank you so much for this. Really helpful, Erinn. Happy birthday for yesterday, Lucy. Thank you, Katie. And Erica says, thank you for this Q&A. Yeah, thank you for everyone for being here. I just want to hand over to Erinn to see if there's anything she wants to say, any last tips that you want to share, and also where can people go to find out more about you, to find out more about Agora Pulse and that kind of thing.
Last tip to social media managers is be kind to yourself. Like if like, you know what I mean? Like, so even for me, I'm just like, some weeks I'm just like, oh my God, look at those numbers. How dare they? Just try be easy on yourself and enjoy the process of being in social media as much as you can. But obviously to learn more about us, so we have an Instagram channel at Agora Pulse UK and Ireland. So follow us. We are a new channel, but we're putting out loads of tips and tricks and things like that to learn more about social media. We also have our Twitter account at Agorapulse UK and Ireland, and our YouTube channel as well with how-to videos, which is like our blogs and people talking through our blogs and how you can do loads of different kind of stuff. So that's Agorapulse UK and Ireland there on YouTube as well. So follow us. We'll have more tips. We've got more content coming out to help people in the same boat as us. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Erinn, and thank you everybody for tuning in today. It's been so great to see you and hear all of your questions. Don't forget to make sure you post your questions afterwards if you have any. We will still be able to come back and answer them, and we'll drop some links in the comments across LinkedIn and everything else as well, and on Facebook. And Erinn might come and say hi and do a little bit of a hi, thanks for your question afterwards, so you can meet virtually the famous Erinn from Agorapulse. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a lovely Wednesday.